and welcome. I'm so glad that you're here with me for this Organizing Mindset podcast and the Thursday Talk Live. I'm Suzanna Kaye, professional organizer, and today we are talking about tax papers. Oh, yes, tax papers. Right now it is April, so we are talking about organizing your tax papers, but we are not just talking about organizing. Hello, Mitu. Hello. Not just talking about organizing your tax papers just for tax filing, we're also talking about it for year round. So I will give you today 3 of my main strategies that I use when organizing tax papers. I do have more information about tax papers and organizing it, and I give you all the details and a great worksheet and everything in our taxes webinar. Go to SuzannaKaye.com and go to the store link, and you can find it in there in the webinar section. But today I plan on giving you some really good bits that can help you out one way or the other. All right, so I already asked in the chat area, tell me, have you finished your taxes yet? I could tell you I have not. I have not done my taxes yet and finished them. I've got a good start on them, but they are not in the final stages yet. I've been a bit busy and I've not even really gotten enough of a good start on them. So that's my admission. How about you? Tell me in the comments. I see. Hi, Mary. She says filed and received refunds in the end of January, early February. Wow, you are on the ball, Mary. I knew that you'd done yours early, but man, you're quick. And Sharon from the deep south of Texas, you're going to see the eclipse coming up soon in Texas. That's awesome. You'll see the full, I can't remember what it's called. I normally do, but I can't remember the name for it. But the full term when it's completely covered, I'm sure. Tell me in the comments. Joe, hello. Welcome, Brenda and CJ. CJ says, yes, taxes filed, paid one, received refunds for the other. It's a wash this year. You know, that's actually the perfect way to be, right? Our goal is to be we don't owe them, they don't owe us. That way we got to keep our money and to make money off of our own money instead of they're making money off of it. Because refunds are great and all, but it's just better to have your money the whole time, right? Melody's here. Hi, Melody and Brenda. Brenda just did hers yesterday. Yay! Woot, woot, woot. Sheila's here. Her taxes are done. And Sue, she says, already filed and gotten a refund. Man, you're making me look bad today, aren't you, ladies? I love that. That makes me happy for you. Cindy says, yes, and spent the refund. That's awesome. I love that. Brenda Jean says she was dreading it, but then she just wanted to get it over with. So laugh out loud. She did it all in one day. And you know what? That is really the best way to do it, right? There are so many times where we build up this dread over what it's going to be. And it's amazing what a relief it is just to know, right? Even if it's the worst case scenario, just knowing somehow makes things not as scary, because then you know what you can have to deal with. You can start to actually figure out a plan instead of your brain just making it bigger and bigger and bigger of a worry, right? So that is great, Brenda. I have to remind myself of that often. I eat the frog before it becomes a toad because my brain will turn it into something awful. Good morning, Lori. She says, I need to mail my federal tax due. The state owes us a refund and I need to enter city taxes online today. You are almost done though. That's fantastic. Sharon, she says, yes, they're turned into my CPA. Love it. Mike and Gwen says, yes, my mom's tax returns and mine. Mom's got in last night. Wow, you guys are on it. I love it. Hello, Denise. She is not done. Okay, you're in my camp, right? She says, haven't done our taxes yet. Have to borrow my daughter's newer laptop because mine needs updates that it won't accept, right? Melody says, yes, federal and state filed. Already received refunds. Her husband is a tax attorney. Oh, that helps. Lori says, I get to see the solar eclipse in its entirety. That's right. In Ohio, you're along that path. Ooh, that's awesome. I'm probably going to be on an airplane during the eclipse, but I'm afraid I'll be flying away from it. So I think that it's going to be behind us. So I don't know that I'm going to get any sight of it, even though I'll be probably in an airplane during the totality. That's what it's called, totality. Cindy says, eclipse. Yep. Yeah, the eclipse. Peg says, answer with a question. Have I started my taxes? Right, that's my answer. Have I started my taxes? Nancy says, hi from Colorado. So far, one pass-through TurboTax. Awesome. Got to check it, write the check, send it in with the extension since we don't get one of our forms until September. Ugh, right? Bonnie says, I filed with AARP's tax aid assistance, but watching now for tips for next year. That's awesome. Yeah. If you don't already know or you haven't looked into it, AARP, thank you, Bonnie, has a really good tax aid if you need help getting your taxes filed. So that's a good one. Yeah, Lori says AARP did our federal and state for free last week. Actually, it's called a total solar eclipse. That's the scientific way of calling it. Okay, perfect. Thank you. I love it. I love it. Good job. Well, you are all so on the ball, and I just have to say woot, woot, woot to all of you because you're doing amazing. Early bird gets the worm, right? Or gets the refund. Well, today, hopefully, you will find some really good tips. I'm focusing even more on the year-round, more than just the tax season stuff. So hopefully you'll be able to set up your files so that next tax season is even easier for you. Now, just a reminder, as a disclaimer, this is not legal or professional or tax advice. The information that I'm going to talk about and all of my products are only opinion. Always ask your professionals for final advice and use your own judgment. I'm not certified or licensed in any legal, financial, tax, or other professional field. So I just had to put that out there. This is not tax advice or financial advice. This is simply my opinion about how to file. Not file your taxes, but file your paperwork in your house, in your files. Okay. Well, if you were just now joining us, I had asked in the comments, have you finished your taxes? So let me know who you are, where you're joining us from, and let me know in the comments if you finished them. But I would love to dive right in and start. So before tax time, let's talk about two of my strategies that I use before tax time. So this is the year-round keeping of tax paperwork. All right. One of the things that I love to do, and this works really well for certain personality types, especially my administrators, you know who you are, use files or containers for tax papers year round. So what do I mean by this, right? I will tell you a little bit more about it in depth in a moment, but having containers, like I love these. These are these document, zipper pocket document holders. And I just got these on Amazon. And I have these on my Amazon storefront link. I'm an Amazon associate. So if you buy something from my storefront, just a note, I may earn commission on it, but I only recommend things that I actually use and actually love. And these are on there. And it comes in a big old pack of them. And they can hold papers really well, among other things. So those zipper pockets are one example of a container that I would use in order to store tax paperwork throughout the year. So one way that you can use this, there are so many different ways, but one way would be if you have this, you can either put this right inside, which I've done this before, right inside my file folders. So that way throughout the month, as I'm putting papers in for that type, whether it's receipts for the month or if it's like supporting payroll, stubs, whatever it is, supporting documents, you could just be dumping them right in there. And then at the end of the month, you just take this right out of that folder, zip it up. It's nice because it's got a label that you can pull out and write on. And it's nice because the label is a business card size. So if you have written on both sides, that's okay. You could just grab some old business cards and use the backs or grab some of the blank business cards. But you just pop this into your tax files for the year and you've got different folders for each month, and then you just pop a new one right into that file folder again and start for that month, dumping things right in throughout the month of that paper type, whether it's receipts, payroll stubs, whatever it is, supporting documents, expense receipts for specific things. But yeah, love, love, love these. They're color coded also. I love that they've got different colors. So if you did want to color code by type or by month or anything like that. I use those all the time for papers as well as other things. You could also, if you like to put your receipts in smaller envelopes, then this can also just hold all the envelopes as well. So when you're done with the envelope, sometimes people do this in their action file. So by containers, you could do in your action file during tax time is really the only time that I really put stuff in my action file for taxes. So unless you have something where a lot come in throughout the month that are specific for taxes, I probably would not have a specific folder for it, but receipts are one of those things that sometimes we do have enough of them that come in during the month that you might need a file folder in your action file or just one of those pockets. Or what a lot of times people do is they will just use an envelope. I don't have a regular envelope in here, but you could do an envelope for the month, put your receipts in it throughout the month, and then at the end of the month, stick a new envelope in there for the next month and just put that month's envelope in here so that by the end of the tax year, you will have 12 envelopes in one folder and you could have this labeled, 2024 receipts. They're all in one spot. Can't lose them. It makes it so much easier. It just really does. But a lot of times I will also just pop one of these into the file holder. Now I will say with a letter size file holder, these envelopes don't fit exactly into it. I do have to fold over the end, which for something like receipts is not really a problem. Or you can put it in, that way and have it sticking up. I should do it this way so you can see that the fold is not there. You can have it sticking up like that if you wanted to in the back. So they don't fit exactly in a letter size, but that's actually a good thing because they are a bit bigger than a letter size piece of paper. So it's easy to get things in and out, and it's easy to have a lot of papers in here without running out of space. But like I said, that's on my Amazon shop. But those I absolutely love, and I love that brand because they just do so many good things. Anyhow, sorry, the dogs are getting all settled here. I don't know. Can you see? She's getting all settled here, so she distracted me. But having those containers for specific paper types or for all of your tax papers, depending on your personality type, is going to help you out throughout the year because then at the end of the year, it's so easy. They're already contained. You've been organizing all year without really trying. Now, in order to make that work, you want that to be in an easy to reach place. During tax time, you might add a folder to your action file for any new tax forms or papers that come in that need to go towards taxes, but that would not be practical for year round unless it's something like receipts. Really, your short-term files, that's the area that's going to be the easiest because that's the area where you can add papers in throughout the month and assign them to the month so you can keep them for a year's time. And everything will be nice and ready for you in there without cluttering up your action file with folders that you are not using often enough to make it necessary. Okay, so using file folders or containers for tax papers year round, and we talked about the zipper pockets. You could also use just file folders if you wanted to. But some of the things that you might consider having in a container or a file folder specifically in your short-term files for it would be receipts, tax forms, supporting documents for your taxes of any type, like payroll reports, deductible expenses. If you are going to possibly meet the medical expense limitation, then medical receipts, things like that. So you want to keep any of those recurring items in your self-purging short-term files. Now, the main trick to making this work, though, is my number 2 suggestion for you today, which is know your organizing personality type. Now, many of you have already taken the personality quiz, right? So tell me in the comments what your personality type is. What's your organizing personality type? Along with a lot of times you have 2, one dominant and one that's less dominant. But if you know what your dominant type is, then you know how to handle your papers better. So if you are an administrator, which I know a lot of administrators are here right now, if you're an administrator, then in your short-term self-purging file system, you will want to keep separate folders for the different types of documents. Now, you don't need one separate folder for every single type. You could have one folder for all of the investment documentation versus one folder for every single investment account that you have, because you simply won't get enough papers throughout the year that would be tax supporting documents from your investment accounts to need a whole folder just for that. All of this other non-supporting tax documents would be going in your files, your long-term files. But in your short-term files, if you're an administrator, you would have like investments, receipts, and that could be any receipts that come in, like for expenses, whether they're medical or not. It's up to you if you want to separate out medical from regular deductible receipts. It depends on your situation. But you'd probably have, if you'd still have payroll stubs, pay stubs coming in each week or every other week, whatever it is, those would be something to have a really good container for throughout the month, right within your short-term files. And then you could have just one for miscellaneous taxes for the random stuff that is kind of a one-off or very rarely sent. Those are the ones that you don't need to have a whole folder for just one or two papers. So my administrator personality types, and let me know, like I said in the chat, what type you are. And if you don't know, then jot down this quiz address or in the description on YouTube for this video. I have, or on the podcast, I have in the description this link, but you could take the quiz for free. So if you're administrator type, you're going to keep the separate folders. It's going to be a bit more detailed. You'll have more folders than if you were the CEO, counselor, or inventor. Now, if you are any of those other three types, CEO, counselor, or inventor, you're just going to probably want to keep one folder labeled taxes, and everything that has to do with taxes can go in that folder throughout the year. So that way it's all in one place, but you don't usually have the need or the personality structure that easily maintains the more complex systems. So fewer folders, like a lot fewer folders are better for you. So one folder called taxes. Now, if you are just an inventor, like personality type, off the charts, like me, then you probably don't even want a tax folder until it is tax time and you start getting forms in, and then you'd put it right in your action file. Until then, you'd probably just put your tax stuff that comes in along with everything else that comes in for the month in your short-term self-purging files. So it's super easy. It's going in one folder, and then you aren't separating it out until you have to do your purge. Now, remember in the Paper Path course, the self-purging short-term files, I talk much more in that course about how those work. But keeping it somewhere that's easy to add to, but don't make it too complex if you're an inventor, counselor, or CEO type. And my administrators, I know you're going to want 50 different folders just for tax papers. Try to keep it down to 5 or fewer, okay? So keep it broad categories. Trust me, it sounds counterintuitive, but you will thank me for it once you're used to it. All right, before we go to during tax time and prepping for taxes, I wanted to hop over to the comments. So in the comments, let's see what's going on. Let's see. Sorry, I had to find where we left off. Oh, cute. Lori and Nancy, or Lori wrote a message to Nancy. Can you file your taxes now and then do an amended return? Good question. Bonnie says, my hair will be in mid-coloring process, but I'm hoping to run out. Scare everybody and watch the partial eclipse here in Las Vegas, Nevada. That's cute. She says the Cleveland Clinic, Nevada, and keep memory alive. Love it. I love it. Jean says, hello from Wyoming. She says, TurboTax wouldn't run on my computer this year, so I had to buy a new computer. Finally had a good excuse to buy a new one. That's a great reason to have to buy one. I wonder if you can make it a tax write-off. Love that. Robin says, hubby has done the taxes, but waiting until the last minute to send money with filing. He helped their granddaughter do her first filing yesterday. Oh, first tax filing. That's awesome. I remember that. It was terrifying. That's so sweet. Lori was talking with Nancy, and then Trisha says, nope, not started. You and me both, Trisha. Yep, I've barely started. I've gotten a start on it with my tax worksheet, but I've not actually done a whole lot with it yet. So Kathleen says, nope, we'll finish next week. Yay, awesome. Yeah, next week is probably about when I'll finish too. Lori says, I do keep all taxable receipts in envelopes. Standard deduction is so high now. We don't have too many deductible expenses. So I was only to claim deductions once in my life. Right? Yeah, a lot of times it's that way, which not a bad problem to have if the standard deduction is more than what your expenses were. I guess there's the silver lining, right? Oh, Trisha asks, how much are those plastic folders? Oh, that's a really good question. I don't remember off the top of my head. I'll have to see in a moment if I can look it up for you and see if I can find that. But yeah, they're on the storefront, and also the prices change constantly. So it's one of those things where if I tell you the price right now, it might not be the same, but I'll see if I can pull up the site and show you in just a minute if I can get to that. Rosella says, hello from New York City. Hi. CJ says, I also add TXD in my digital calendar as a quick search term on any day I've generated a tax deductible document or activity. Oh, that's interesting. I like that. I like that. Denise says to Trisha, I believe they were less than $10 when I bought them last year. Awesome. Well, yay. That's cool. Brenda says, I can't remember. Lori says, administrator, and I think I was also counselor. That sounds about right. But I know that you're a strong administrator type. Brenda did hers last year, but doesn't remember. That's okay. Don't worry. You could always do it again if you wanted to. You don't have to. She says, I think I was an administrator and another one mixed. We definitely have a lot more administrators in our group than most, although it is the most common one. So I like that. Mary, administrator. Yep, not a surprise. Absolutely. And Rosella says she's a counselor administrator type, but for taxes, I put all the yearly tax related items in one folder. Okay, good. Yep, just like a counselor. That's so much easier, isn't it? That's really good. Hi, Joyce. Nice to have you here. And yes, so Brenda, she says, can you give us the link to the personality quiz again? I just wrote it down wrong. Absolutely. Let me pull that up right now. There we go. There you go, Brenda. Hopefully that helps. And let's see. Sandy says her taxes are done. Joyce says she's done her taxes and her sons and her grandsons. Memoira says, yes, done. And CJ is an administrator counselor. Yeah, that makes sense. Brenda says, never mind. Figured it out. Yay. Awesome. And Sue is an administrator. She says, since paranoid nitpicker was not an option. Oh, that's cute. I love it. Oh, you're so funny. All right, perfect. Well, hopefully now you have an idea of some ways that you can keep it, especially if you're an administrator. Remember, though, if you're an administrator, 5 or fewer folders or containers for tax documents, right? These you can use if you have the big package of these pockets. I promise there are so many uses for them. You don't have to worry about making every single one for taxes. Please don't. But let's see, somebody had asked about where the envelopes were in my store. So let me see if I can find that for you really quickly, because I do love those. They are the best. And I'll have to put them on the front page of the store after this, so that way they're easy to find. Okay. There they are. So they are in the mail and to-do papers section of the store. So that's where you can find them. I could probably even, can I do this? Let's see. Yeah. All right, so this is the page in my store. When you go to my store, this is how it looks. And I'm still building those item lists in the store. So like as I come up with different themes that I want to share with you, then I will build new item lists for you. But in the mail and to-do papers, the one that has the file folders on the front, when you go there, then scroll down and you can see these are those tabs. And I don't know how to say the brand. I'm guessing it's like Oot, E-O-O-U-T. There's too many vowels for me to figure out how to say it correctly. But I love, love, love these. And this one has 32 of these pouches. 32, which is awesome. So hopefully that helps give you an idea of some containers that you can use. Love them. All right. So we talked about using files or containers for tax papers year round. And we talked about knowing your personality style, that organizing personality. Are you an administrator, CEO, counselor, or an inventor? And if you're an administrator, you can have try for five or fewer tax files in your short-term files. If you're not, then just go for one or put them in your monthly, because the easier you can make it, the more likely it is that they will get into the right place quickly, because otherwise they end up in a pile and then you can't find them, and you create piles around if it's not super, super easy to put away, or you put them in the wrong place because you were in a hurry and you got confused and you did not stay consistent. So we want it to be super easy. And if you are a counselor, CEO, or inventor, the easiest you can possibly make it, the better, especially my inventors, because you generally do not like filing. You just want to move forward to the next thing. So let's talk about during tax time though. That would be right now, right? The beginning of the year through tax filing time. So my favorite thing to do around this time is to create a workbook. So create a workbook, and since you're filing your taxes right now, this is the perfect time for you to create your own workbook if you don't already have the one that I created and shared at the tax webinar or in the Paper Path course. So create a workbook template based on your usual tax needs. So, and I think I had an example. Yes, I do. Let's see if it'll let me share this one. And will it? There we go. Okay, so when you are doing a tax workbook or worksheets like this one, this is just an example. I have the actual worksheets that are blank with the fillable fields and all that I share during the tax webinar and in the Paper Path course. But this is an example of that if you're building your own. So when you have a tax organizer worksheet, what you want to do, take your current year's taxes and use that to figure out what you usually need for your taxes. And then just create a worksheet where each year you can just print it out and fill it in again. So this one's handwritten just because I felt like handwriting the example. But you would want information such as, and none of this is actually true information. You'd want information such as what are the logins for things like your bookkeeping software, CPA, tax software, things like that. How do you normally file? Who dependents would be each year? And some of the things that you will usually need each year that don't change. So IRS PIN numbers, spouse's social security numbers, bank routing information, that type of stuff. And just create a checklist of all the things you need to get together in order to file. And then you can even have resources like the IRS website is already on this tax worksheet for you automatically, but maybe your CPA's web portal address, or if you have a place that you like to refer to for information. Then you want to create an area where you can list out what forms you usually have that you need to wait for that belong with your taxes. So if you get W-2s, then you can list out the company that will send you the W-2, any notes about it, and you can check it off once you've received it. The same with like 1099 NECs. Those used to be called 1099 miscellaneous. They changed them back in 2021. But 1099 NECs or investments, different investment types of forms, interest forms, other types of forms like education, healthcare, that you might be waiting for from other places like your 1099-R, your Schedule K-1s. And then you want to make sure that you include any supporting documents that you regularly gather. So do you normally have to gather medical receipts? Then great, write down where you store them, if they're in a receipt envelope in the filing cabinet. And then once you gathered them, what I like to do is I gather them and I put all the supporting documents and everything, all the forms that come in, I keep them all together with this worksheet. And once I've seen that everything has come in, I know that, okay, we're good. There's nothing that has been forgotten. And then I also like to have some notes areas. So that way you can fill in anything that's a little bit different than the usual years. So hopefully that helps you out. And yeah, so yeah, sorry, I was just reading the chat. Hopefully that helps you out, because if you have a tax worksheet, that's one of those times where I like to say, take your brain out of the system. Take your brain out of the system. You know, my brain's not even here today. Take your brain out of the system by filling in the blanks, having it all the questions there, and you're just answering questions. That way your brain does not have to try to remember anything. Now, your CPA probably has something that they send you. If you have a CPA, they probably have their own tax workbook. You could just use that if you want to, or a lot of times I keep my tax workbook for me because it's just a lot easier than the big packet that my CPA gives me that does not apply to me a lot of stuff. And then I use my tax worksheet to fill in theirs and send it to them. So hopefully that will help you take your brain out of the system during tax time when you've already got so much going on that thinking about, okay, what forms do I need? Have I gotten all of my forms? Am I missing anything? What was the PIN number for my taxes? I don't remember the amount of adjusted gross income from last year. Now they're asking me. If you have it all in one place, it's going to be so much easier. And like I mentioned, I do have the tax webinar. So if you enjoyed this, the tax webinar is just a 1 hour organizing your taxes like workshop that you can grab and you can watch it anytime. You'll own it forever. But when you grab this, you get that tax worksheet that I was talking about that I've already built for you. And you get 1 hour of even more detail these three things, plus even more detail about archiving them, retention, and all the good stuff. I talk about all of it in the webinar if you're interested. So if you don't want to build your own worksheet, that's a great way to get it, is through the webinar. Let's see, in the chat, Melody says, as far as her personality type, she's an administrator counselor, but she says that's correct since I have a master's degree in counseling. That totally makes sense. CJ says the 5 or fewer files advice has been gold to me. Yay! Woo, woo, woo. That's awesome. Oh, I'm so glad. It's so tempting to do more than 5, isn't it? Joy says I'm a counselor. Oh, good. I love the soft hearts of our counselors. So everybody's got that counselor added in. It's fun. Mike and Gwen says I use my CPA's worksheet, keep a blank one for next year to get a head start. That is awesome. Good. Good. Yes. The more you can just take your brain out, the easier it is, right? Hi, Carolyn from South Carolina. She says, thank you so much for all of this very valuable information. You are so welcome. I figured since right now we were already talking about the Paper Path course, which has this in it, and it's tax time, I figured this might be helpful for someone, right? Nancy says, I have a chart each year with the documents I'm waiting for, and I put the date I receive or print these documents. And I print the chart on colored paper so it stands out in my tax folder from all the other papers. Ooh, I love that. I love the colored paper so it stands out. Super smart. You're a smarticle particle. Lori says, I made a worksheet of forms I was expecting to get from my employer, financial institutions, pensions, Social Security, etc., and checked them off as they arrived or were available online. Yay! Woot, woot. Yes. You guys are doing it right. Denise says, oh, Free Tax USA is free for all federal and only $15 for any state taxes. Yes, I actually have used them before as well, and they were great. Yeah, that's one that the IRS recommends. Thank you, Denise. That's good. I'm not going to say this right, probably. Nemoyer, I'm guessing. She says, oh, I missed that. Where is the personality quiz? On YouTube, it's in the description of this video. If you're watching on the podcast or you're listening on the podcast later, then it's in the description of the podcast. So when you open up the video description, then you can see it there. Peg says the form 1099 miscellaneous still exists. Non-employee compensation was put on a separate form 1099 NEC. Yes, that is true. Yeah, 1099 still exists. Miscellaneous still exists. It's just if you usually got it for non-employee compensation, then it's no longer on that form. Thank you for the clarification. That is true, Peg. Yes. Well, awesome. That is it. Those are some 3 things that can get you going if you want more. Like I said, check out the Organizing Your Papers for Tax Time webinar in the store. Just go to SuzannaKaye.com, click on shop, and go to the webinar section, and you will see that tax webinar. It's a replay, so you can watch it anytime, and you can get that tax worksheet. And just remember, it is okay, even with taxes, it is okay if you do not do it perfectly the first time. Get it finished, then go back and refine. So with taxes, I know that we worry so much about it being perfect, right? But it does not have to be perfect or as close to perfect as we can get until you file it, right? So don't worry about making it perfect on your first go through. Make it as good as you can so that you can get it finished. And then when you go back to check it, that's when you can make it more perfect, right? But the first goal is to get it finished as best as you can with what you have at the moment, and then go back and refine it. So I always call it a rough first draft, because otherwise we get stuck and it feels too overwhelming trying to be perfect as you go along, doesn't it? Thinking about having to do each step perfectly will make doing it at all just feel impossible. So do it imperfectly, just the best you can with what you have at the time, but don't worry about perfect the first time that you do it. Just go through it, make sure that you get it done. And then when it's time to just double check everything, that's when you can also refine it, make it perfect. Sound good, my perfectionists? All right, so remember your next step. Next step, if you are one of my Path members, remember today at noon, so in about 20 minutes, we have our weekly check-in and topic discussion. I'm sure that we will have a lot to talk about today, which is awesome. So make sure that you join me if you're a Path member in 20 minutes so we can go more in depth into some of this. And if you're not a Path member yet and you want to become one, go to SuzannaKaye.com, stop by the store. We would love to have you join us either for today's live, you can hop on right away, or anytime really, because the Path membership is a lot of fun. Also, if you want even more help about taxes, organizing your taxes for the rest of the year so that next year you are absolutely prepared, as well as that preparation and the filing and scanning and preserving the archives, all that good stuff, check out the tax webinar. So go to the SuzannaKaye.com, click on the shop, and go to the webinar section of the store, and you will see it right there. Just put a check mark in the box next to it and scroll down, and you'll see your total. Recap. Should we do this? Let's do a recap. So we talked about before tax time. So this is the stuff we're doing all year round. So before it's time to actually file those taxes and prepare those taxes, use files or containers for tax papers year round. And I shared my store link, Amazon.com/shop/Suzanna Kaye, all one word. But I shared these document holders, and these are super awesome. They come in a big old pack, and I use them for travel. I use them to hold craft stuff because they're so strong and they don't leak. So I'll put things like all my different pieces of fabric and needles and stuff, or I'll put paints and paintbrush and the little canvas, whatever I'm working on. I use them for office supplies. I mentioned travel. I used to use them for kids stuff. And I use them for different types of documents throughout the year or saving documents over time. So check those out if you're looking for some good containers. But either way, file folders or containers for tax papers to keep them year round. Make sure that they are easy to get to so you can add to them easily. But especially my administrators, do not have more than about 5 file folders for tax paperwork year round that you're adding to, because then your brain gets overwhelmed. It's just too much to maintain. So 5 or fewer folders. If you're not an administrator type, try to make it super easy and have just one tax folder, or just include them with your monthly short-term files like we talk about in the course. And that way you'll always have that 1 year's worth. Easier, the better. And then we talked about know your personality type. Knowing your personality type means, am I doing this in some folders? Can I be a little bit more detailed? Or do I need to be super, super simple and have just one folder or container that says taxes and everything for the year goes in there? But knowing that personality style, which remember on YouTube, the podcast, it's right within the description of the video, that will help you figure out exactly how to set up your tax files. Now, as far as more detailed filing for your filing cabinet, things like that, I do have by personality type. I've got that broken down in the course and in the workshop. Now, during tax prep time, after January 1st, before you file your taxes, how do we keep all of that organized? Creating a series of worksheets, workbook, whatever you want to call it, but a guide for yourself where all you're doing is you're answering questions. And you can, now's the perfect time as you do your taxes, create what works for you. Make sure that you have what types of forms you wait for in the mail, which ones come virtually so you can keep your eye on your emails or go to that website to get them. Make sure that you know which types of papers you need to pull out from your files and all the information that you generally use year after year for your taxes. So it's all in one place. And once you have those worksheets, then you could have your worksheet and then have all of your documents right underneath it, right with it, whether it's in a pocket folder like I do or a file folder with it, but just keep them together. So that way, when you have everything, you're ready. You're like ready to launch. So once you have that worksheet, it makes it so much easier and it takes the work out of it because then you can quickly and easily see what you need. And that's it. Yeah. And if you want to go more in depth and want the tax worksheet and all that good stuff, then grab that taxes webinar. It's only $30 in the online store, SuzannaKaye.com, in the webinar section. In the chat, really quickly, I wanted to see what everybody's chatting. Lori says, did you say that I can't talk. Did you say that the tax worksheet is also in the Paper Path course? It is. The tax worksheet and all the tax steps and details are in the special papers section of the Paper Path course. So that's the final milestone of the course, is either the final or it might be one before the final. I think the final might be maintenance, but one of the last two is special papers. And once you click on that, you'll see there's year round and there's tax prep time. Brenda says, thank you. You're so welcome, Brenda. Absolutely. CJ says, thank you, Suzanna and everyone. As always, great info and advice. You're so welcome. And I will be sharing more great info and advice with you during our Path member Thursday talk right after this, as well as some of our other Path member items. And as far as the course, yes, if you want all of this information and more on organizing every piece of your paper in your house, then the Paper Path course is it. SuzannaKaye.com. You can join the Paper Path course anytime. The price will be going up. And if you join now, I will tell you, okay, here's my first teaser. First announcement, I will tell you that we will be making some changes to the Paper Path course. And it's nothing that's going to affect what you've already built or what you've already seen. That's still all of that advice. I still stand by it. The how-to, the system, the structure, it's not changing. I am going to be giving you some ways to make it more of a fast start and to make it even easier to finish quickly within the Paper Path course. It's already pretty quick, but this way you can finish even faster. So if you do grab the course now, then when those updates come out, then any of the updates to that main course you will automatically get. Even if the price goes up because of them, then you don't have to pay extra for the main course updates. So hopefully that helps. So if you do grab the Paper Path course at SuzannaKaye.com, then you don't need to worry about when the update comes out. You will get that main course part. You will get the update for it. Lori says, I forgot how to log into the Paper Path course help. Simple. Go to SuzannaKaye.com, click login, just like you do for your Path membership. So SuzannaKaye.com, click login at the very top. And in your online library, one of the main boxes that you see is Paper Path course. So if you have any other trouble with it, then let me know. Just shoot me an email, hello@SuzannaKaye.com. But I have a feeling that once you log in, you'll remember, you'll see it there. Well, I love you so much. Keep being amazing. Remember, if you're terrified of your taxes, that is okay. I've been there. The best thing you can do is just do a rough first draft of it, because just knowing what you're in for, even if it's the worst case scenario, is such a relief. So just dive in and just do it, right? Luanda says, I just saw the message for this about tax papers. Is there a replay, please? Yes, there is. So on my YouTube channel, which you're already on the YouTube channel if you're watching this right now through YouTube like you are, when you look at the live videos section, then you will be able to go back to the beginning of this video as soon as we're done, and you can watch the whole thing. So I'm glad that you're here, Lawanda. All right. Keep being awesome. I love you. And I'll see you later. Bye, beautiful. See you, Pathfinders, in 15 minutes.